So guys, as you have probably seen, Valve released a huge update on Vertigo where they added this catwalk on the outside of A, they opened up this wall on short and adjusted some of the spawns. And these adjustments will definitely change the way this map is going to be played, so let me show you how to get some easy wins on this map right now. So first of all, let's talk about the spawn timings. On CD side, there's no longer this spawn circle that was right here, but now the spawns are back in this line. Like so, and they adjusted the spawns in a way that the timing on the short area stays roughly the same. So when you're peeking this as a CT, the T that's pushing up ramp with the best spawn will be just around this area. This also means, since they adjusted the spawns for this straight path, that anyone that is trying to peek ramp, so anyone that is coming on the crane side here, will be way later than before. Before the update, you could just peek crane and kill anyone that's in this area right here. But with the new spawns, if you peek crane, the T's will be already in this area right here. And this also means if you want to go sandbags as a CT, you have to go straight to it, because if you're doing some nades, the T's will be already in this area, making it impossible for you to cross towards sandbags. So in my opinion, this means that the short area will be really important for the CTs to hold on to, because if the CTs have control over this area, it's much harder for you as a T to fight over ramp, because you can only now play close to this headshot angle, because if you're like in this area, you will be seen from short. And for T's, it will be very important, I think, to push back the CTs on ramp, because if you play passive on T side and you allow the CT to take over control, I think the round will be very hard for you to win. And the reason for that is, if you start playing slow on A and you let the CTs take control over this area, it's really easy for them to just slow you down. And then when they realize that now you want to progress further into the ramp area, they will see that you're going to use some mollies here and maybe some mollies here, and then they can just fall back. And now imagine they can play a setup like this where they jiggle here, and when they see you, they can just drop a smoke and cover this, and then they can have an AWP sitting on side here, maybe falling back for a second shot. Now he can fall back for a third shot like this. And then the rifler can just hold an angle like this, and maybe if the AWP took his last shot, he can just fly out like so, trying to kill people. Like, it's really hard for you as a T to progress into the side with all of these new angles, because as I mentioned, you can play from here, you can now have boosts up here, you can play from angles like this, you can hold heaven from here, then fall back to here, then maybe come out, hold angles like this. Like, there's so many angles, and it's really risky for you to get into the side if you play just like you did on the previous version. So as we already said, we want to make sure that we push back the CTs on this area right here, and we want to make sure that they're not coming out of this area. So I think one good thing would be to just get into this corner right here and then use the smoke like this, and this is going to smoke off short. And then just have one guy maybe throw a molly like this, making it hard for any CT to push behind the smoke and trying to fight this area right here. And then after the guy did the smoke, he can just jump on top of the railing here and then do some flashes like this. And these flashes will blind anyone that's trying to play from ramp here. And as you can see, they're pretty hard to spot for the CTs, because they fly behind this beam here. And now if your teammates are rushing up like so, these flashes will just be behind them, and anyone that will play like here will get blinded, even if they're close to the crane, like so. So now you're gonna have one guy in spawn throwing the smoke and the flashes. Now you can just smoke the molly that the CTs might throw, and then you can do smoke and maybe HE or flash, and then just jump up here and try to fight for this area. And then maybe a second guy can just do a flash like so, run through the smoke, and then you try to fight this. And then maybe this guy would need the molly to clear out sandbags, because this is a really dangerous position for you now. So now if you are in this position where you push back the CTs on side, and you made sure that they're not pushing out short, now you can think about how to execute onto the A side. One thing that I already saw were some smokes like this, I think. Like, I don't know the precise lineup, I think it was from here or here, and they land on top of this like roof part, and then they will go down covering short like this, and then you can have smokes like so. But I personally think this is not going to be the way this is going to be played, at least not for a full execute, because you're basically just trying to emulate how the map was before the changes. But if you have a smoke here and you now play like before, so you take short control, maybe you come out here, all it will need the CTs to do is just drop an HE like this, and then they can just fight you, and maybe a second guy can just drop a flash and one guy drops the HE, and then you're all of a sudden in the middle of open, completely blinded. And I think this is going to be a nightmare if you play like this and the CTs know how to use their nades to break up smokes and use some flashes. So what I personally think will be going on is the Ts will kind of forfeit this area here and try to gain control over this area right here, because this is the area where they have the advantage with their spawns. And then maybe you will see executes where they smoke here or smoke here, and then just try to go for a plant. And obviously I already came up with an idea for an execute. So if you push back the CTs on this area and make sure that they're not pushing short, you can just come against this pole right here in the middle of this. And then you're going to use the new crosshair. So you put your one in this corner right here, and then just release the smoke. And then you go towards the right to those knots and do 1, 2, 3 up. And then you go just a little bit towards the side and then just release the smoke as well. And this is going to be the first one smoke that lands on top of the box covering heaven, and the second one explodes on this box covering up this whole side. And now you can go for a plant. Maybe you can plant here, maybe you can plant here, and the guy who did the smokes can then just flash like so. I would just flash 2 times, because if the CTs might decide to nade the smoke and try to kill someone, then they will get just completely blinded by those flashes. And if you're now coming up the ramp, you can just have a look for the end of this shadow part here, drop a molly, and then again, as I said, just maybe try to plant the bomb. And this molly is going to land in a way which denies the CT from being able to play a position like this. And this means the guy who planted the bomb can go here afterwards, or maybe a teammate of you is just going with them, and then you just try to take over control of this area. So on the old version of Vertigo, I liked doing a pistol round where you would just smoke off this and then just rush ramp and try to kill the guys on short. And if the CTs were falling back on side, they were not able to like hold angles like these, like obviously from down here or this, because it was just simply smoke. But on this version is simply not viable anymore, because there are too many angles on the short area that CTs could be playing from. But if you have a smoke that lands on the box like so, especially with the new timings, you could do the same thing and just rush into the side, have someone planting the bomb, and then just take over the side and have the last guy covering this position right here, and make sure that the CTs are not pushing out short. And this smoke is actually pretty simple. All you have to do is get into this corner right here, and then you just have a look for this corner between this red pole here and this black one, and you just go into the corner, go a little bit down, aim like so, and then just do a simple jump though. And this smoke is going to land like so. And now, as I said, you can just rush up the ramp, plant inside of the smoke, and maybe even, as you can see, it's just a small gap, try to push into this area right here. And if CTs are playing on this side here, they're pretty much trapped, and now you can be in this area, can be hiding in the smoke, and maybe lurking short. So let's now talk about CT side and how I personally think you should play it. So as I mentioned earlier, this will be a very important area for the CTs to take. And we already saw in one official match that the CTs were again starting to use this smoke, which goes down here. And then you can just use a molly where you come against this wall, aim a little bit towards the left of this beam here, left and right click, and just release the molly. And this is just going to land in front of the smoke. And then if the Ts are not smoking this or mollying this, it's a very easy way for you to take over this area and then make it really hard for the Ts to push here, because you're now out short. And then it should be really easy for you to just take over control of ramp. Maybe you have someone smoking ramp in the beginning of the round, but I don't personally think this is necessary. I would just start with this smoke and this molly, have someone come crane, and if the Ts are not pushing, you can then maybe just drop a smoke like this and take over ramp. And then when the smoke starts to fade, you should just fall back, I think, and then maybe you have 2 guys that play off each other. So you have someone maybe AWPing here, and then maybe he can fall back to a position like this or hold angles like this. Or here, just have two guys that play around in this area here. And then one guy can just play a little bit more passive, maybe even holding angles like this, and then he falls back, and now you just play together as a trio. And again, I think AWPing on this A side will be very easy because you have just so many angles that you can play from. And I think if these Ts just play ramp slow and they take their time, there's no reason for you as a CT to like retake ramp with flashes like this, because you can just fall back and use all of these angles. So as I said earlier, if you want to be the guy that goes sandbags, you have to run towards this area and you cannot stop. So let me show you some nades that you can do while running towards the sandbags. So what you could do is just come here, aim towards the ground, and then just do a right click molly like so. This will just molly off ramp, and after the molly you can just come here and then just simply go flash like this and come towards sandbag. And if the Ts will just smoke this off and try to rush you, they will just eat the flash like this, making it a little bit harder for them to catch you while you're going towards sandbags. Another thing is, if you want to peek short, you have to know that the Ts can already be like holding you. And flashing them is really hard because the old flashes from here, they were always like good in a way where they would flash people that are coming up here, but they were never really good at blinding anyone that's playing from back here. So what I think you have to do is have one of your teammates come here and just drop a flash like this, and this is going to be the only flash that will blind any AWPer that holds you from down here. And if you don't have someone throwing a flash like this, I personally think it's kind of suicide to peek this. The Ts can just come here, hold this, and straight up kill you. And they have a lot more space in this area right here because they now don't have to be worried about someone being super aggressive on Crane, because his teammates can just run up here and beat the CTs by timing and push them back. So it gives them even more free room to just sit here and hold short. So I personally think as a CT you would want to wait for the smoke to open, just molly this, and then just wait if the Ts are smoking you off. And if they don't, you're in a really good position to hold down ramp. So I think a default round should look like someone mollies ramp and flashes like this and then goes sandbags. One guy goes short, and if he wants to peek, someone has to flash for him. And if he doesn't want to peek, he can just come here again, do this molly, and then the rotator guy should just smoke down ramp, and then he can just listen for what is going on and then try to help the other guys. Maybe he can, if they're coming up ramp, he can throw nades like this, maybe flash in front of the sandbag guy. There are a lot of options that he can do to just support his teammate playing on sandbags or on short. So yeah, these are my initial thoughts on the map. And as a T general rule, if you can get away with pushing the CTs back onto the side, just maybe use an execute like this, like I showed you before, and then just try to get down the bomb and maybe try to cover this area here. And as a CT, you want to make sure that you are trying to take ramp control, and if the Ts allow you that, you can just hold ramp control early and then give it up later and play all of these new angles. But we will see in the future. I have to play a lot more games on Vertigo, and when I did some more games on this map, I maybe make a second video and update on all the new stuff that I learned. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.